Peace. You are tuned into Edible Activists with your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. On this show, we honor Black people and their stories in food and agriculture, celebrating legacy, traditions, contributions, and creativity that all stem from the land. So tune in and let's get started. Peace. This is your host and favorite edible activist, Melissa L. Jones. Today's guest is Erin Cole, founder of Nurturing Our Seeds, an urban farm in Detroit, preserving seeds, building connections, and planting roots for the city's food future. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love me some Detroit. I think for those who've been listening to my show for quite some time, it's what up though, however you say it, but I gotta say it when I'm on.
Oh,
Yes. If nothing else, in the show, no site.
we
So
could go home now.
we could go home now, right? But I have always been amazed by the community in Detroit, and obviously specifically the grower and farming community in Detroit, and just the centering of Black growers in this beautiful, beautiful city that I love and adore. So I'm excited that I get to add another Detroiter or Detroit story to the catalog of edible activists. And so we are always down for a good origin story. So I want to start at the top. It's about your journey and what led you into urban growing and farming, and how did that passion blossom into creating Nurturing Our Seeds?
Yeah, so I always have to start off by saying peace to Detroit, peace to the farmers that are out, the land stewards that are doing the hard work. This is hard work, but we can do the hard work too. I like to say all the time that we didn't when folks call us urban farmers and growers, a lot of times we didn't know that this was a trend or a thing. This was something that was started about 15 years ago, and it came out of a community need. And so I if anybody who has heard me tell this origin story, it's the same. It's the same every time because I lived it. Our great aunt lived in this house that we're now currently in, and where the farm site is. Um, the land around her had been vacant for years. And so a group of us, because there are elders all around on both sides of the street, a group of us would come over, we would cut the grass, my aunt's grass, kind of keep it low. And we had just cut the 2 lots on the side of her house, and took a break, sat on her porch, and looked across the street, and we were like, "Whoa, this is a daunting task. We're about to have to cut, like, these next 3 or 4 lots." And as we were saying that, and the grass was, like, almost, like, maybe to our chest, and as we were saying this, a man, I won't devalue him, a man just got up off the ground and then just walked away. And he just cut through the field, through some more tall grass and vacant lots, and just walked away. And instantly, everything in our hearts and in our brains became, this is a us problem now. We have to keep our great aunt and these elderly folks safe. Even there wasn't much craziness going on, just the fact that we had just cut all this grass on the side of the lot and you hadn't even moved. It made you think about your security, you know what I mean? And who's like watching and waiting and lurking. And so we cut that grass, and I would say maybe a week later, we came back, and directly across the street from my great aunt's house, we planted um, a huge flower patch. And Magnetic Sun, he's our farm manager. He is his great aunt. We planted this huge flower patch, And to this day, that flower patch is still there. So 15 years later, it's the same when you ride past, it's the same flower patch is there. Our great aunt said, okay, flowers are nice, but what about some mustard and turnip greens? And so that led us down a full journey. And it wasn't new to us. We had a home garden in our backyard on the west side. Well, this is on the east side of town. So on the west side of town, we had a huge garden already growing things in our home. And so we said, well, let's go through all the things, the steps. Let's, do a plan out. Let's get the soil tested. Let's see what needs to be done to start growing. And that same summer, we started growing and we started like building as a community and developing. Um, and so that's why I say for a long time, we didn't know that this was like my journey into urban farming. It was like this desire to reconnect with not just food, because we already, like I said, we were growing, but to our community and to our roots and to what we owed our elders who we were, we had seen grew up, we had seen struggle, we had seen them feed people and come together in the community and still be here, even when like we're in a really like vacant part of Detroit, and to feel like this is like a really forgotten about neighborhood. The neighborhood is really, really close knit and tight knit, and so everybody here has been here for 30 and 40 years, and so I oftentimes I say to myself, these aren't just our neighbors, they're our family. I tell people all the time, even when I'm upset, like you parking on my grass and my flowers go there, or you blocking my driveway and you realize what you blocking my driveway, I can't get out the driveway. And instead of just being like all crazy about it, I'm like, that's my cousin. That's my cousin. Let me love my cousin. Let me pivot and let me go ahead and say, because we've been together for forever. So like that's the start of it. I think the other thing that really kind of helped um bring this to fruition is there was a very poor um amount of grocery stores and food access. And so I would have to take my grand aunt to, if anybody knows Detroit, you know about the Kit Kat market. That was the closest grocery store. And it was like this big. It was halfway liquor store first, convenience store second, and then it was a meat market in the back, in the far, far back. And people are for years are doing full grocery shopping out of this store. We went in there one day, bought a bag of chicken before we got her back home, which was like 1.5 stoplights back up. Um, I could smell something, and I kept saying, "Auntie, the only thing we bought was chicken. This chicken can't be right." And so we took it back, like direct. I didn't even get it in the house. We took it back, and they tried to treat us as criminals, as if we were like trying to run some type of game, run some type of scam. And I'm like, I was just here like 5 minutes ago. Like, I am not haggling you over a $12 bag of chicken. This meat is spoiled. And I think I then began to like tell this story all over the city of Detroit. And I feel like in a year or two, that market was shut down. I don't want to say I contribute, but I will say that I think that we need to do more bringing light to the injustices that are happening in Detroit instead of just continuing on as status quo. And that was 15 years ago. And I see so many more folks just starting to be more vocal about like the food options or lack thereof that we have, even with produce in there. It's either unripe or it's like going spoiled, and it's all at extremely high price. So like that's literally what made us start it. For a long time they called us the Helen Street Block Club because the community, we didn't have a name. We were just on Helen Street, and the community was like, oh, we've been in the neighborhood, growing up in the neighborhood 30, 40 years. And they were like, "Y'all, what are y'all doing? Playing in the dirt?" And we're like, "Yep, mm-hmm." And then we came back another year. "What are y'all doing? Playing in the dirt?" "Yep." And we didn't have any real goals except for to make just a little change impact and to make sure people felt safe and to keep this community connection going. And maybe about the 3rd year, or I'll say this, each year, even though they kept asking us where we were playing in the dirt, they kept saying, "Well, do y'all need anything? Here goes some tools. Here goes some. I bought these plants to contribute because I can't get down there, but I got these extra seeds. Y'all want them?" And then as years passed, it was like, "Here, I got a lawnmower. Here, I have my son who in trouble, so he needs to come on down here too and do his work." And it became like with each year, just more and more of this community thing that kept growing. And our only goal was let's just keep getting better and better than the next year. And 5 years later came and they said, "Y'all still playing in the dirt." You know what I mean? And I said, "I wonder if I told these people that I had a whole master's degree in education and I write curriculum and teach and do all these other grand old things. I wonder what they really think we were crazy then." You know what I mean? And so it led to, I think, a a movement that we joined that we weren't even aware that it was like just doing something out of the need of our community. And I tell people all the time that I think it's going to take these small little, like people say, "What can I do?" You can do a lot because it's going to take these small little intervals of small food access points, urban agriculture, chefs, food activists, and the small quote unquote work is big work, because what's going to happen is that message is going to keep just getting bigger, and as everybody does the work, the circles will begin to overlap. And when those circles begin, it's like a Venn diagram. When those circles begin to overlap, we'll have that commonality and we'll have that coverage that we'll need. That's when we'll start to begin to get secure in our self, our community, our sovereignty. I'm gonna pause right there because I know I talk a lot.
Erin, you could have kept talking, and I was just soaking up everything from preservation to legacy building, creating a safe haven for community members, almost like your own miniature food hub that you guys have been building. So, so many things have been coming up, and the small steps, I call them little big things. I was just having this conversation. You started the little big things years ago when y'all said, "Let's mow this lawn." So it's a series of those small little big steps that got you to where you are now, and it'll keep growing bigger. And so you're right. You're absolutely right. When people are saying, "What can I do?" We often think that it has to be this great big action and we have to like go out here and drop all these plans and just it's a series of small steps and small actions that if everybody took, we could build something bigger and build something that is sustainable and that benefits the greater community. And so I'm in awe, and I can't wait to visit. I mean, there's just still so much more to unpack there. And for those, I think some people are familiar with Detroit's landscape. And so you have the folks who aren't familiar who say things, but it's sort of kind of like no secret with like the landscape of Detroit, and that there are areas that aren't, that you see the effects, still from like white flight and like redlining and stuff like that, right? And just the dilapidation, I think that's the word I'm trying to say, of like, homes that are vacant. And there has been this beautiful resurgence of community members and residents and Detroiters like you who have come in to restore pockets of these neighborhoods. And it's like if we continue with those series, and I know there's some other politics behind it that I'm not too privy, all the way privy. I'm a little bit privy, so it's easier said than done. But you guys have been doing the small steps in the small series, so in awe. Can't wait to see it. I do have a question. When you all like landed, or when you started to cultivate a bit more there, unbeknownst to what you guys were building, how was the soil? Like what all went into nurturing the soil to bring it like to life to start to cultivate?
Yeah, so we went through a series of cultivating this soil. So magnetic is what we call a compost master. He is our soil, we call him the soil scientist. He is the one that is able to go in and literally just digest and process from the clay soil to the nutrients that the plants need to the amendments and the provisions that can happen to build up that soil. So to not be so technical, the soil test came back fine in the areas that we tested. However, it was very clay-like and lumpy and really compacted together. And so we did a number, a series of things. First off, we started to look into the plant root growth. And so we wanted to figure out, like on average, how far, because we knew like trying to amend that clay soil right off, like if we were like say in the South and you got 40 acres, there's no amending that. I better find, a better way. And so we went into studying the plants and the root systems and seeing how far the root systems go down into the soil. And from there, we begin to build up based off of what that root system was. And so we basically created what they now call, and we did not invent this method, but again, this is where our knowledge led us to before we knew, I'd like to call it our ancestors, before we knew the education of the things that people are now like have these very European names for. And so we begin to build up and we begin to build up with life form. So we use compost, we use like um, old leaves so that you can have your breakdown and decay. We use worms and vermicompost. We used wood chips, um, green leaf mulch, and we just basically cooked that soil. So we built it up and we just made it as rich as we could. And we just cooked it. We practice biodynamics, which is like a form of soil preparation. And it does a lot with energy and good intentions as well. But we just built the soil up. And so each bed was physically a buildup. We didn't go down. We didn't go down. In fact, for years, we kept building up. And so, yeah, that's the start of it. And then we begin to like move on. But I couldn't imagine like 15 years later having to um like having our soil be depleted. Right now it's not depleted. It's just we biodynamic it every year. We're compost teaing it. The herbs that we know as healing herbs, so like our comfreys, our burdocks, um, all of our herbs, we would either make a compost tea out of them so that we know them to heal you in the body. That's the same way our intention was of them healing the plant. But we also laid the leaves into the soil and let them break down, and with the intention that that same healing herb would heal the soil in the plant. So that's a lot to do is like how we started with the soil build up. Yep.
Erin, I can talk about soil all day. It's one of my favorite things. I will stick my hands in soil. I will listen to the science behind soil all day, every day. It is so vital for our crops. So just the intention that you guys have put into building the soil and just the energy, it just speaks volumes. I can't wait to visit. So
Mm.
with that, Erin, what are some of like the most popular or beloved crops that you all grow and what makes it so special to you and your community?
Oh, yeah, this is the easy one. So in this neighborhood, because it's so rich in like 30 and 40 years, like I say, it was just too funny. Our neighbor down the street, she may be like, I don't want to, she might see this because she real hip. So I'm just gonna say 75. You get what I'm saying? Um, she called us and she's like, "Hey, can y'all go look in my driveway and my door in the garage, lift up the garage and see if I lost my Cadillac car keys? Cause I'm in Southfield now and I just tried to get out my car and it went dink, 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 no key." And so we said, "Okay, Miss James, absolutely." So now we in her driveway, we opening her door, we done lifted up the garage, and her daughter comes home. And you would think someone would come home and we got the garage lifted up. You would think they would come home and be like, "What are y'all doing?" And instead, she's like, "Hey, y'all." Like, it's no big deal. So it's just like it's this warm community focus where folks are sharing their lives together. They're sharing food stories. And so the food stories that you get in our community are the tomatoes. They're the tomatoes that they want their green tomatoes. They want their fried green tomatoes. They want the watermelon. They want the okra. They wants it. You know what I mean? They wants it. And we get the collard green plants that just get dug up. So at the end of the season, we come up to the farm. We don't even we come up to the farm and we plant a lot, so it's not a big deal. But especially a few years ago, it would be like few plant collard green, big, big, big plants, just gone, the whole thing. We just uprooted it. And so we started to teach and educate the community about, please don't take the whole plant. Just pop the leaf off. Just keep popping the leaf off. It keep coming back. You keep coming back. This will all work out really well. And so nobody would admit to digging up the collard green plants. And we weren't like investigating or anything, but it was like everybody kind of was like, "Oh, like, never thought of that. What else can you teach us? Like, what else do we need to know and educate about?" And so yeah, I think those are the favorites when it gets hot outside, the watermelons and the melons. When it gets hot outside, the greens, the tomatoes, the okra, the melons, it gets everybody coming out. And you get the people that are sending their people or they're popping up. And they trying to be discreet about it, but they like, "You what you got there?" You know what I mean? "Oh, I came. I'm just gonna be I came because I know it's about time for green tomato." That's if the conversation doesn't go fast enough. So, but that's what we're known for. We grow maybe about 20 different varieties of heirloom tomatoes. There's about, I think, 5 different varieties of okra. We do a seed saving for Ujamaa Seed Cooperative. And so I always save okra seed and I always give it out and tell the stories of like how much sustenance is in this seed and in this plant. Um, and so those seeds they sell online as part of their seed saving cooperative. But yeah, um, super duper excited about all the food because we do grow from green beans to kale to ground cherries, peach trees, pawpaw trees, gooseberries, raspberries. We grow everything on this farm. Yep.
I mean, Erin, teas, thank you. And Black folks, we love a tomato, we love a okra, we
That's what I
love
said.
a
It's the Philly.
green. And it is, I mean, you all are a part of the supply chain. Like, you have a living grocery store right there, and it is amazing and an honor for folks to be able to walk by and be like, "What they got over there in that yard?" Like, I can come get a watermelon, I can come get a collard green or kale or okra, and it's beautiful. I know when we talk about supply chains, it is much more on like this corporate scale, and it's weak. It's extremely weak, and I'm like, Know y'all local growers, know your local farmers. They will feed you all, okay? Like, they are also helping to mitigate some of what's happening with the climate, but they will also feed you good food, if they are, have great practices and nurture their food. And it just really is outstanding just to have that in the community. And my vision would be to see that across the entire nation. And there are great people doing this who are doing this work. But again, if we had the small series and steps and leading up to that, that would be a wonderful thing. But also knowing that food isn't like the solution to all the things happening. So, but that's amazing. So with the seed saving, I actually want to just kind of sit there for a moment. Like, you had spoke to this, but just a bit. But like, what um in addition to, I know you had mentioned the seed saving of the okra and for Ujamaa, but why is this work so? Why is the seed saving process so important for food sovereignty in especially in Detroit?
So it's two parts. I think it's a growing part, and then there's like this wellness standpoint behind it. So if we take it just really quickly from a growing standpoint, um, I think we're starting to beginning even from purchasing from a seed cooperative, we're beginning to really um be in control of what we're receiving and where we're sending our dollars to. Um, so the selection of heirloom seeds, of open pollinated seeds, of having the healthiest seed selection, of representing what is good, clean, and fair. Um, yeah, just to want to start there. And I say that because we became nurturing our seeds because we plant like tens of thousands of seeds by hand every year. And that is how we for this many years was able to grow that much food. It wasn't because we purchased plants, it wasn't because people gave us anything. It was a little teeny bitty seed that we planted over and over and over again, trays and trays. We now supply 14 different Black farms around the city of Detroit with transplants and seeds so that they can have plants for their entire growing season through the year. That's economics. That's growth and cooperativeness and collectiveness. So seed saving there is just for to make that measure and connection is super important. I think the other thing is that um why it's important is because seed saving is slow, but it like I said, it's powerful. For the longest, we didn't know that these seeds that we were just dropping in the ground and watering and waiting on, we were doing ourselves a disadvantage. And so what happens when you drop that seed in? The grass grows faster. The weeds grow faster. You are at a disadvantage by the time you drop that seed in and begin to water it and nurture it and nutrient. And a lot of us, we didn't know that. We didn't know, not just not just Black farmers, not just people that were just beginning off, people in Detroit and everything. We didn't know that. We didn't understand that we could, start our seeds a little bit early, transplant. And so that knowledge became powerful. And everybody kept saying, "What are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? How are things running so smoothly? How are y'all have all this food? How are y'all have peppers and okras and all these things already?" And so we begin to tell more and more people like, you got to save your seed and you got to start your seeds early and and it became more and more like I can do, even if you do a little bit, even if you do them in your basement, even if you do them in milk crates outside, like because they're cold weather conditioned seeds. And so the first thing, like I said, came from a growing perspective. The other thing is it really kind of holds to our history and then allows us to connect and prepare for the future. So it allows us to plan, it allows us to guide ourselves, and it allows us to be the very best that we can be ahead of time. So like that is for me one of the biggest yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we look up and we're trying to figure out. why our gardens are failing, and it's like you're not following the right steps, and that can be applied in so many different things, that we tend to things and we tend to things and we tend to things, but our processes and our systems are not always, you know, at the adequate, best. So
You
yeah.
are preaching on here, Aaron.
That's why I'm like, I'm trying to keep it. I'm
You
trying to
are
keep it.
preaching. I mean, but listen, I love being able to make the parallels to like there's the growing of the crop, but there's also the growing of us and the growing of other things and other collectives. And the systems need to be set in place, the processes need to be set in place with that foundation, the soil needs to be solid, and so for things to grow up and grow up in a healthy nature. So listen, if I'm amening over here and applying it onto my own life, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And the last thing is the seed saving. I get to create. So I get to create new seed, new strands. I'm currently like, I don't know if anybody's following me on Instagram. You do not have to. I post like once a month. But nurturing our seeds, Detroit, if you are interested. Um, I'm trying to get this like cool pink, fat pink okra. And I want it. And I've been like quietly working on it. I'm close enough to like I've started to kind of be more vocal about it. But I'm also like, information is so free, and I'm such a collaborator and want to be collaborative, that like a lot of my downtime is spent like trying to be a scientist in the background and trying to like develop things. And so yeah, I'm like in my head, I'm like a couple years away from my own okra seed strand. That's how I feel.
That is
And that excites me.
no, that is so exciting. And listen, I
I'm
add
speaking it into existence.
it's listen, I'm here to back you, okay? I am here to back you, and let's add some scientist work to this to this resume, okay?
Yeah, and that's what it is because farming is a lot of science. It's just trial and error. It's research. I tell people, it's research, it's science, it's trial and error. We got good research, but things are changing. The weather's changing, the soil is changing, our climate, everything is changing. And so the stuff that bloomed last year in June or in July, it came in June. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out how I have golden raspberries on the bush right now. And they almost got away from me because I'm like, no, they shouldn't be here until like maybe September or so. So things are changing. Yep.
That indeed, which I mean, you're speaking to that and leads some into my next question. With the climate in Detroit and everywhere, but how has it forced you at all to rethink how you grow or what you plant with the changing of the seasons and the changing of the climate specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. The weather is extremely unpredictable right now. So some people say we're in a drought, that we're not getting enough rain. I haven't done the research to like, I feel like we are getting less rain. I know it rains every Wednesday, but I do feel like we're getting less rain. I also think that winters are not as cold anymore. Summers are having this wet flood, just a lot of flooding been happening, heavy rains, and then it goes hot and dry. That's terrible for your plants, terrible for your food. I think a lot of people don't think about like in Michigan where it's a bit cold, that may be okay for us because we're used to a short growing season and we're used to cooler, colder weather. But when you go down to Texas and Florida and Mississippi, where it's getting super hot and dry, and then flooding, and then getting cold, where our tropical foods and fruits are coming from, it is slowly creating a food waste. I think that's the thing that we don't talk about as well, because we're too busy talking about the shortage that is creating, or not trying to like address it at all. Like every time that weather drops, crops are dying. And so, um, yeah, this it creates a shortage, but also a food waste that's happening because all of that stuff is destroyed. So problems are happening with the waste. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you so much for naming that. I would love to drum that up as another episode. Like you're right. Like it and I you think about it, but like when you name it, you think more deeply about it in that there obviously is waste from just consumption or people like tossing food, but the crop failure, it's complete waste and it's money that you guys don't get to make. It's mouths that you guys don't get to feed, and for those who are responsibly, turning over that crop, whether it's into composting or what have you, and others who may not, don't even know where it's going, it's like creating all these things. And so I thank you so much for naming that because that is a reality. And the climate has not, I want to say it has no mercy, but we have not given it the grace. Like we have not been treating Mother Nature as we should. And so she's like, okay, no. And it has been having such a challenging impact on our growers because I was having this conversation with another grower, and she mentioned that you used to be able to look at the farmer's almanac and just like be like, okay, like, this is what we can predict or this is what has happened in the past, but because it's just so all over the place, you just don't know. And for a place like Detroit that isn't getting as cold as it used to be, that's scary.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is that we learn, like I said, is trial and error. We learn like with this research, right? We learn to like work with the uncertainty rather than like fearing it. And so we're constantly seeing like we're 2 years later, we learn everybody keeps asking us what's going on with cucumbers. Why do all the cucumbers keep burning up? And 2 years later, we're now able to comfortably come and say to them, cucumbers are not full sun. Maybe they used to be full sun, they are no longer full sun. Cucumbers are part shade. So now all of our cucumbers, even the ones planted in the hot house, the hoop house, are planted partial shade. They're big, they're huge. The ones in the hoop house are still growing. They're planted between the tomatoes. So the tomatoes are shading them and they're taller than us. The ones that we planted this year, and they're on the drip line and it's hot in there. The ones we planted this year that are in open field on the drip line in full sun, they're all ate up and beat up in gold. We had to rip all of those rows out. So it's the same. And we wanted to do the research. One more, we did it last year. We accidentally did it the year before. So we came back last year to do it. And now we're like, firm believers of like, I'm not planting another cucumber in full sun. So yeah, it's us having to like make sure that no matter what our if something does happen, our community will have full access to fresh food and vegetables because we're able to adapt, because we're able to do season extension, and we're able to grow based off of within our environment, basically, just like we've been doing, just like we've been doing.
Just like you've been doing, adapting, doing what we got to do. So that I mean, it's just all just so intriguing, and just the ability to just be transparent with the community and to know with confidence, even if you do wish you can grow cucumbers, like we can't right now. We're just not doing it. And so I appreciate that. We are gonna wrap up soon, but I definitely have like one last question, and we want folks to know where you are so that they can follow you all because nurturing our seeds is amazing and they need to see all the work that you guys are doing and hopefully see that pink okra. No, they will see that pink okra, that hot pink
Yes,
okra.
yes. Yeah, I want it bright pink. It's a pink one. It's a pink one on Instagram now that I'm excited about.
Okay,
That
bright
is just
pink.
blown. It's pink. Oh yeah, yeah. You should see it. It's pink. I promise you, it's pink. I've made a video. I'm so excited, I'm waving it, but it's not as pink as I want it. And
Okay.
it's really just a blend of an heirloom green and an heirloom red coming together, like, being planted every year for, like, the last 5 years together to try to breed in this pink, this full pink, yeah.
Growers are creative artists. This is an artistry. I mean, y'all are just creating masterpieces behind, over there. I absolutely love it. Now, you all are connected to the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund and amazing fund and platform and collective that I've been following. How has that network supported you and other farmers in the city of Detroit?
Yeah, I say all the time I like to think we've been doing this work for a very long time. The land fund was created for farms and groups like us that had for a long time tried to purchase land, tried to go to the land bank, tried to secure the land and just kept getting turned away. um, it is not by coincidence that somebody is living in our great grandmother's house across the street. We attempted many a times to purchase that house there and was told that it was not for purchase and that we would be the first ones to be notified when it was, and that was not the case. It was not until the land fund was created and the narrative was out to the world that this wasn't just happening to one Black person. It wasn't just happening to one city of Detroit resident. It was happening to all of us. And I think what it was is that whoever was in charge at the time did not want to put more land into Detroit residents' hands, but also it was a Black thing. You know what I mean? It was a people of color thing, as in thinking we are not worthy enough to have that land and thinking that we didn't know how to create on that land. And so we say all the time that land represents freedom and power. It's the foundation of farming. And we were being just really off put. And so the land fund helped get that nationwide attention. It also helped create other land funds in other cities and counties in Michigan and around the US where this was being done. And they got to be set, like, really set a precedent for folks to say, hey, this is being done here. They're purchasing land for folks. I think last year we raised over $100,000 to put into the hands of Black farmers, BIPOC farmers in the city of Detroit. This year, I think we have over 115 applicants that applied for the land fund this year, but they're helping folks that are beginners. They're helping folks that are mid-level, experienced. They're helping small organizations, big organizations, land purchases and infrastructure projects, emergency services. And so the Land Fund and the Detroit Black Food Sovereignty Network are both, I think, have just been really, really instrumental in being a voice to make sure that farmers can continue to use their leverage and do what they need to do, and like really be taken serious. Whereas I'm just gonna be very clear about it. You can go to the we're not interested in selling to restaurants, but you can also go to all of the restaurants and see where their food is coming from when it's local. And most times it's from white farms. And it's not that we are not there or available. It's them choosing to go, you know, where they want to go. I'll just say that, where they want to go. So, yeah.
We'll leave it at that because we know what it is. Erin, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. This has been packed. I'm full. I am so full. And thank you so much. Where can I know you shouted it out earlier, but again, for the audience, where can they find you on social so that they can connect and follow you and see all the great work?
Yeah, so we are nurturing our seeds Detroit on Instagram and nurturing our seeds on Facebook. We're also at the Easter Market Detroit on Saturdays in Shed 4, and we're on the farm in the soil, hands deep down in the dirt doing the work. Yeah,
That's a t-shirt, Erin.
I like the idea of that.
Yes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Peace. Thank you for listening to Edible Activists. You can find today's episode on Spotify, iTunes, and Simplecast, and follow along on all social media platforms at Edible Activists for updates. Want to support this platform? You can do so by purchasing our commerce or connecting with me about media partnerships at www.edibleactivist.com. In the words of Baba Tariq Adunu, there is no culture without agriculture. Peace.